The airport was buzzing with noise, people rushing, suitcases rolling, and announcements crackling over the speakers. But in the middle of the chaos, a woman stood frozen, her face red with embarrassment. Her name was Lily, and she wore a plain dress and old sneakers. Airport staff surrounded her, shouting, "Get out! You don't belong here!" They grabbed her small bag and pushed her toward the exit. Tears streamed down her face as travelers stared and whispered. Lily tried to speak, but her voice was drowned out. "Please, I'm waiting for someone," she cried. The head security guard, a tall man named Mr. Baxter, sneered. "You're loitering. We don't allow people like you in our VIP lounge." He pointed at her worn-out clothes, laughing coldly. The crowd gasped as he shoved her harder, and she stumbled, almost falling. Suddenly, the glass doors of the VIP lounge swung open with a loud bang. A man in a sharp suit stepped out, his face dark with anger. The air seemed to freeze. Everyone turned to look. He was tall, with piercing eyes, and his presence made the room feel smaller. "Mr. Baxter's smirk faded. The man's voice boomed. "What are you doing to my wife?" The crowd gasped louder. Lily's eyes widened and she whispered, "James." Who was this man? Why was he calling Lily his wife? And why did the airport staff suddenly look so scared? The story rewinds to earlier that morning. Lily woke up in her tiny apartment, her heart racing with excitement. She hadn't seen her husband James in months. He'd been away on a big business trip, and today was the day he was coming home. Lily didn't care about fancy clothes or makeup. She just wanted to be there when James stepped off the plane. She packed a small bag with a photo of them together and headed to the airport. At the airport, Lily felt out of place. Everyone seemed rich, with shiny shoes and expensive bags. She clutched her photo tightly, smiling at the thought of James. She found a seat in the VIP lounge, thinking it was okay to wait there. But that's when things started going wrong. A woman in a tight uniform, Miss Clara, noticed Lily. "Who let her in here?" she muttered, glaring at Lily's old sneakers. Miss Clara whispered to Mr. Baxter, the head of security, and they decided Lily didn't belong. "She's probably a thief," Miss Clara said, narrowing her eyes. Mr. Baxter marched over. "You! Show me your ticket!" he barked. Lily fumbled, explaining she was just waiting for her husband. "No ticket? No VIP pass? Get out!" he shouted. Lily's cheeks burned as people stared. She tried to stay calm, but Mr. Baxter wouldn't listen. He called more guards, and they started pushing her toward the exit. Lily's heart pounded. She didn't understand why they were so mean. Just as they reached the door, a loud voice stopped everything. "What are you doing to my wife?" It was the man from the lounge, James. But how did he get there so fast? And why was everyone suddenly acting like they'd made a huge mistake? The tension in the air was thick, and Lily's heart raced. What was about to happen next? The airport lounge fell silent. Every eye locked on the man in the sharp suit, James. His voice still echoed. "What are you doing to my wife?" Lily stood near the exit, her hands trembling, tears drying on her cheeks. Mr. Baxter, the head security guard, froze, his face paling. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Ms. Clara, the uniformed woman who'd started it all, stepped back, her confident smirk gone. The crowd whispered, "Who is he?" And, "Did he say wife?" Lily's heart raced. She wanted to run to James, but her feet felt glued to the floor. James strode forward, his polished shoes clicking on the shiny tiles. He gently took Lily's hand, his eyes softening as he looked at her. "Are you okay?" he whispered. Lily nodded, but her voice shook. They thought I didn't belong here." James's jaw tightened. He turned to Mr. Baxter, his gaze like fire. "You thought my wife didn't belong?" he asked, his voice low but dangerous. Mr. Baxter stammered, "Sir, we didn't know. She didn't have a VIP pass." James raised an eyebrow. A pass? For my wife? Do you know who I am? The crowd leaned closer, holding their breath. Miss Clara tried to fix things. Sir, it was a mistake. She looked, she trailed off, realizing her words were making it worse. James's eyes narrowed. She looked what? Poor? Ordinary? Miss Clara's face turned red. Mr. Baxter jumped in. We were just following rules, sir. No pass, no entry. James let out a cold laugh that made everyone shiver. Rules? Let's see how your rules hold up when I'm done here. Lily tugged at James's sleeve. Please, let's just go home, she whispered. But James shook his head. Not yet, Lily. They need to learn. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Mr. Thompson, it's James. I'm at the airport. There's a problem. The crowd gasped. Was he calling someone important? Mr. Baxter's eyes widened. He whispered to Miss Clara, who is this guy? She shrugged, looking scared. James hung up and faced the staff. You have 5 minutes to explain why you humiliated my wife, or you'll regret it. Mr. Baxter laughed nervously. Regret it? Who do you think you are? James smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. You'll find out soon. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed from behind. Mr. Baxter, what's going on here? A man in an expensive suit rushed into the lounge, his face sweaty. He was the airport manager, Mr. Thompson. His eyes locked on James, and he froze. Mr. Sterling, he gasped, the crowd murmured. Sterling? Why did that name sound so important? Mr. Baxter's face went white as a sheet. Had they just messed with someone they shouldn't have? The airport lounge was thick with tension. Mr. Thompson, the airport manager, stood frozen, his eyes wide as he stared at James. Mr. Sterling? He repeated, his voice shaking. The name sent a ripple through the crowd. Mr. Baxter and Miss Clara exchanged panicked glances. Sterling? Ms. Clara whispered. As in James Sterling? Mr. Baxter's knees wobbled. He'd heard that name before on TV, in newspapers. James Sterling was a billionaire, the kind of man who owned companies, jets, and maybe even parts of this airport. Lily clung to James's arm, her eyes darting between him and the crowd. She hated being the center of attention, but James's grip was steady, giving her courage. James, please, let's go, she whispered again. But James's face was hard. His eyes locked on Mr. Baxter. Not until they apologize, Lily, he said softly. Then, louder, he turned to Mr. Thompson. Your staff humiliated my wife. They judged her by her clothes and kicked her out like she was nothing. Explain. Mr. Thompson's face turned red. He spun toward Mr. Baxter and Miss Clara. Is this true? He demanded. Mr. Baxter stammered. Sir, she didn't have a VIP pass. We thought she was, trouble. Miss Clara nodded quickly. She didn't look like she belonged here. The crowd gasped, shocked at their words. Lily's cheeks burned, and she looked down at her old sneakers. James's hand tightened around hers. Didn't look like she belonged? He repeated, his voice icy. My wife can go anywhere she wants. Do you know why? Mr. Thompson tried to calm things down. Mr. Sterling, I'm so sorry. This is a huge mistake. Please, let me make it right. But James wasn't listening. He looked at the crowd, his voice steady. Lily is my wife. She doesn't need fancy clothes or a pass to prove who she is. But you? He pointed at Mr. Baxter and Miss Clara. You need to learn respect. Mr. Baxter's face twisted. He was scared, but his pride took over. You can't just threaten us, he snapped. This is our airport. James raised an eyebrow, pulling out his phone again. Your airport? Let's see about that. He dialed another number. Mr. Grayson? It's James Sterling. I need a favor. Mr. Thompson's eyes widened. Grayson? The chairman of the airport board, he whispered, horrified. The crowd leaned in, buzzing with excitement. Who was James calling now? What favor could a billionaire ask? Mr. Baxter's bravado crumbled. He stepped toward Lily, his voice shaky. Ma'am, I'm sorry, okay? But Lily didn't look at him. Her eyes were on James, filled with trust. Suddenly, Mr. Thompson's phone rang. He answered, his face draining of color. Yes, sir, I understand. Right away. He hung up and turned to Mr. Baxter and Miss Clara, his voice trembling. You're both suspended, effective immediately. The crowd erupted in cheers, but James didn't smile. He pulled Lily close, whispering, It's over now. But just as they turned to leave, a loud crash echoed from the entrance. A group of men in dark suits stormed in, their faces serious. One of them stepped forward, holding a briefcase. Mr. Sterling, he said urgently, we have a problem. James's face darkened. What was happening now? And why did Lily suddenly look so scared? The airport lounge was a whirlwind of chaos as the men in dark suits stormed in, their heavy footsteps echoing like thunder. The man with the briefcase, stern and sharp-eyed, locked his gaze on James. Mr. Sterling, we have a problem, he repeated, his voice cutting through the crowd's murmurs. Lily's heart pounded, her hand tightening in James's. She didn't understand what was happening, but the fear in her chest grew. The crowd leaned closer, eyes wide, sensing something big was about to unfold. Mr. Baxter and Miss Clara, already shaken by their suspension, shrank back, their faces pale. Mr. Thompson, the airport manager, looked like he might faint. James's expression stayed calm, but his eyes were sharp as he faced the man. What's the issue, Mr. Carter? He asked, his voice steady but edged with authority. Mr. Carter opened the briefcase and pulled out a tablet, showing James a screen filled with numbers and charts. Your company's stock is crashing. Someone leaked sensitive information about your new deal. The press is outside, and they're saying it's tied to this incident. The crowd gasped, whispering wildly. A stock crash? A leak? How was this connected to Lily? Lily's knees felt weak. James, is this my fault? She whispered, her voice trembling. James turned to her, his face softening. No, Lily. Never. He squeezed her hand, then faced Mr. Carter. Who leaked it? He demanded. Mr. Carter hesitated, glancing at the crowd. We traced it to an airport employee's phone. Someone recorded the scene here and sent it to the press, twisting the story to make it look like you caused the scene on purpose. James's eyes narrowed. He turned slowly, scanning the room. Who? He asked, his voice like ice. The crowd went silent, everyone looking at each other nervously. Then, a young worker in a corner, holding a phone, started to shake. I didn't mean to, he stammered, dropping the phone. The screen showed a video of Lily being pushed out with a caption, Billionaire's wife humiliated. Mr. Baxter's face twisted with anger. You idiot. He hissed at the worker, trying to shift the blame. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, desperate to fix things. Mr. Sterling, we'll handle this. The employee will be fired. But James raised a hand, silencing him. This isn't just about your staff anymore, he said. This is about respect for my wife and for everyone. He turned to the crowd, his voice rising. Lily is my everything. She doesn't need fancy clothes or money to be worth more than anyone here. And you, he pointed at Mr. Baxter and Miss Clara, you judged her without knowing her. That's your mistake. The crowd erupted in applause, some even cheering for Lily. She blushed, tears in her eyes, but this time they were happy tears. James pulled her close, whispering, I'm so proud of you. Then he faced Mr. Carter. Fix the stock issue. I trust you. Mr. Carter nodded and rushed off, already on the phone. As James and Lily started to leave, Mr. Baxter called out, "Wait! I'm sorry, okay? I was wrong." Clara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We didn't know who you were." Lily paused, looking at them. Her voice was soft but firm. "It shouldn't matter who I am. You should treat everyone kindly." The crowd cheered louder, moved by her words. But as James and Lily reached the exit, a reporter burst through the doors, camera flashing. "Mr. Sterling, is it true your company's in trouble because of this?" James stopped his arm around Lily. He smiled, calm and confident. "My company's fine. But the real story?" He looked at Lily, his eyes shining. "It's about my wife, who's stronger than any of you know." The reporter's jaw dropped, and the crowd roared. But just as James and Lily stepped outside, a sleek black car screeched to a stop. A woman in a sharp suit stepped out, her face urgent. "James, we need you now. It's not just the Stocketts, the board. They're calling an emergency meeting.